In the frozen mountains of Nepal, when winter arrives, everything changes. The snow covers the paths, the cold intensifies, and life becomes even more challenging. But even with below-zero temperatures and shorter days, the inhabitants of these isolated villages continue with their routine with strength and simplicity. Here, life has another rhythm. Families get up early to take care of the animals, collect firewood, and prepare food with what they have. The wood stove becomes the heart of the home, where everyone gathers to warm up and share stories. The children play in the snow while the adults face the cold to make sure everyone has something to eat. Despite the difficulties, there is a unique beauty in this way of life. The family bond, the connection with nature, the respect for traditions, all of that transforms what seems harsh into something full of soul. In this video, you will see up close what daily life is like for these people during the winter in the Himalayas, how they warm themselves, what they eat, how they take care of the animals, and how they face the coldest season of the year with courage and wisdom. Stay with us until the end and discover how it is possible to live well, even in the most difficult places in the world. In the mountains of Nepal, winter arrives in silence, but it transforms everything around it. The sky turns gray, the wind blows stronger, and suddenly the first snowflakes begin to fall. In just a few days, the paths disappear, the ground is covered in white, and the landscape becomes completely different. Nature announces that a new cycle has begun. For those who live in these remote villages, that means profound changes in routine. Families were already expecting it. For weeks they cut firewood, stored food, and reinforced their houses to face the cold that lasts for several months. The temperature drops drastically, often below zero for days in a row. The humidity of the snow, the icy wind, and the short days make everything more difficult. But at the same time, winter brings a unique beauty. The silence of the snow-covered mountains, the steam rising from the chimneys, the animals huddled in their shelters, everything slows down. It is a season of endurance, but also of reflection. A time when each small gesture, lighting the fire, preparing a hot tea, gathering the family around the stove, takes on new value. Following this daily life in the midst of intense cold and constant snow makes us value the little things in life even more. If you are enjoying getting to know this reality so different from ours, leave your like and subscribe to the channel. That supports us a lot and motivates us to continue sharing these stories that almost nobody shows. And tell me in the comments, could you live like this, facing winter with what you have at hand, far from everything and everyone? Stay with us because in the next few minutes you're going to see even more about how these families face the extreme cold with courage, wisdom, and much unity. Living isolated in the mountains of Nepal during the winter is an experience that few can imagine. When the snow covers everything, the villages are practically cut off. The paths disappear, the rivers freeze, and communication with the outside world becomes difficult or even impossible. There are no cars, no markets, no hospitals nearby. Everything that families need must be at home or very close. Life goes on with what there is: stored food, water collected from melted snow, firewood cut in advance. Every movement, no matter how simple, requires effort. Walking through deep or frozen snow drop by drop is often dangerous. Even so, people go on calmly, used to depending only on each other. The isolation is not only geographic, it is also cultural. These communities maintain ancient traditions, live at their own pace, and follow a logic that does not depend on the rush of the rest of the world. Here, loneliness is relative. The unity among neighbors and relatives helps to face difficulties. And even in the midst of cold and distance, many feel at peace, far from everything but close to the essential. In the mountains of Nepal, raising animals is essential for survival, especially in winter. Even with below-zero temperatures and snow everywhere, the care of cows, yaks, goats, and chickens does not stop. It is daily, hard work, done with one's own hands, that demands strength, patience, and endurance. Very early, even before the sun rises, many are already up cleaning the stables and feeding the animals with the little hay and fodder they managed to store before winter. The relationship between the inhabitant and the animal goes beyond necessity. There is respect, care, and even affection. These animals provide milk, meat, wool, and manure, which is used as fuel. Without them, life at these heights would be almost impossible. In the extreme cold, everything takes more time. Everything demands more from the body, but even so, those who live here do not complain. For many, this is the life they have known forever, an effort that is repeated every winter with pride and dedication. In the harsh winter of the mountains of Nepal, food has to be simple, nutritious, and made with what is available. With frozen fields and paths blocked by snow, there is no way to sow or get food from outside. Everything that will be consumed in those months must be stored in advance or produced locally. Grains like rice, corn, and barley are stored in large clay vessels or in cloth sacks. Rice with lentils, known as dal bat, remains the most common dish even during winter. Vegetables are scarce in this season, so families preserve fermented or dehydrated foods such as green leaves and chilies. Meat, when there is any, is usually dried and kept for the coldest days. Everything is cooked on a wood stove that, besides preparing the food, heats the environment. Meals are enjoyed calmly, as a family, sitting on the floor around the fire. In such a demanding winter, food ceases to be just sustenance. It becomes comfort, warmth, and union. In the frozen winter of the mountains of Nepal, no one can live alone. The unity among family members is fundamental to facing the months of cold, scarcity, and isolation. Each one has their role and everything is done together. Cutting firewood, feeding the animals, cooking, caring for the children, and keeping the house warm. There are no nannies, no maids, no electronics for distraction. Here the grandparents live with children and grandchildren, share the same roof, and pass on their knowledge naturally. When something is missing in one house, the neighbors help. If someone gets sick, everyone gets involved. That sense of community is a valuable heritage passed down from generation to generation, where survival depends more on people than on things. In such difficult times, the most important thing is not what one has, but with whom one shares it. Human warmth ends up being stronger than the cold outside. And it is that unity that keeps hope alive even when the world seems frozen under the snow. Despite the intense cold and the isolation of the mountains, traditions remain alive in Nepal. During winter, the inhabitants maintain ancestral customs that are part of their identity. They are simple gestures, family rituals, and celebrations that give meaning to the hardest days. Clothing, for example, is still handmade with wool from their own animals. Women weave at home, following patterns passed down from generation to generation. Religion and spirituality play an important role at this time of year. Even with the cold, people light candles and incense, offer dried flowers, and say prayers asking for protection for the family and the animals. In some villages, there are winter festivals that celebrate life, the past harvest, and the beginning of a new cycle, although in a simpler way inside the home. These traditions help keep the spirit strong. They are forms of connection with the past, with the ancestors, and with that which does not change, even when everything around is covered with snow. Winter in the mountains of Nepal does not forgive. Heavy snow, cutting winds, short days, and long nights make life harder with each week. But even in the face of these challenges, the inhabitants learn to adapt, not with advanced technology, but with ancestral knowledge, patience, and courage. Mobility, for example, is one of the first problems. Without accessible paths, people walk along snow-covered trails or use animals to move around. Any medical emergency can become a real risk, since there are no hospitals nearby. That is why prevention is key. To face the cold, they depend on the firewood accumulated before the season begins. The fire cannot go out. The food is simple but reinforced with hot broths and foods that provide energy for longer. Nothing is wasted, and when the mood declines, faith and family coexistence help to maintain balance. The strength of these peoples is not only in the body but also in the spirit. They face the winter as they always have, with resilience, organization, and mutual support. Thus, year after year, they manage to overcome the hardest season of the year with dignity. The houses in the mountains of Nepal are made to withstand the cold. Simple on the outside, but full of traditional wisdom, they are built with stone, wood, and mud, materials available in the region that help to preserve heat for longer. Many have thick walls and few windows to prevent the icy wind from entering. The heart of the home is always the wood stove. There, food is cooked, the environment is warmed, and many times it is where everyone gathers to eat, talk, or simply warm up. The roof is low so that the heat does not escape, and the floor can be of mud or wood covered with thick handmade carpets. There are no modern heaters or electricity in many of these houses. The firewood collected with effort before winter is rationed carefully so that it lasts until the end of the season. At night, everyone sleeps with thick clothes, wool blankets, and sometimes even with embers and clay pots beside the bed. The house becomes a complete refuge where heat is preserved with effort and every corner has its function. In winter, it is more than a home. It is protection against the outside world. In the mountains of Nepal, nature is not just the landscape, it is part of life. Here, everything revolves around the natural rhythm. The time to sow, to harvest, to collect firewood, to prepare the house for the cold. Winter only reinforces what these people have always known. Living here is learning to listen to the earth, the wind, the snow, the silence of the mountains, the brightness of the sun reflected in the ice, the sound of the streams slowly freezing. Everything has a meaning. There is no clock that marks the hours. What rules is the sky, the weather, the cycles. When the weather turns bad, it is time to stay home. When it snows heavily, it is time to wait. And when the sun comes out, even for a short time, everyone takes advantage of it. This coexistence with nature creates a kind of wisdom that cannot be learned in books. It is a relationship of respect, care, and adaptation. They know that fighting against the environment would be useless. That is why they live in harmony. Even in the face of difficulties, here the human being does not dominate the world. He walks alongside it day after day. For those who see it from the outside, life in the mountains of Nepal, especially in winter, may seem too hard. Constant cold, isolation, lack of modern comforts. But at the same time, that simplicity draws the attention of many people. There is something in that slow routine, in that connection with the earth, and in the strength of traditions that reaches the heart. In a world where everything is fast, noisy, and full of distractions, seeing people living in such a present way, so connected to the essential, generates admiration. Here, everything has its time. The food is prepared calmly, the work has a purpose, and family coexistence is not a detail, it is a central part of the day. It is not about romanticizing difficulties, but about valuing a lifestyle that highlights what we sometimes forget. Silence, effort, mutual care, respect for nature. This life shows that one can live with little and still have much. Peace, unity, meaning. Perhaps that is why so many people fall in love, because deep down there exists a desire to return to something simpler, more real, more human. And in the mountains of Nepal, that way of living still exists. And you, what do you think of this life in the mountains of Nepal during winter? In each scene, from the snow covering everything to the care of the animals in the cold, one can feel the strength and the simplicity of those who live there, facing everything with calm and unity. If this video reached you in some way, leave your like. That helps the channel a lot to keep bringing real stories like this from forgotten places, but full of life. And if you are not yet subscribed, take the chance to do it now and not miss the next documentaries that are already on the way. Now tell me in the comments, could you live in a place like this far from everything, among the snow and the silence? Or do you think that seeing it from afar is enough? Thank you very much for watching until the end. See you in the next one.